What happens when a ruthless business titan discovers that the empire he built on efficiency and profits is actually crumbling from within? Join us as we follow the transformative journey of Richard Thompson, CEO of Cornerstone Construction, who learned that true success isn't measured in square footage and profit margins, but in the lives we touch and the legacy we leave behind. By age 48, Richard Thompson had transformed his father's modest construction company into Cornerstone Construction, a $2.8 billion enterprise with projects spanning across 27 states. His groundbreaking rapid build system transformed the construction landscape, delivering projects at unprecedented speeds, 30% faster than industry standards, while generating profit margins that left Wall Street speechless. Starting from a single office in Seattle, he built an empire that employed over 15,000 people and completed more than 200 major projects annually. The media dubbed him the Building Baron, praising how Cornerstone made quality construction accessible to mid-market developers. Their slogan, "Building Tomorrow Today," became synonymous with fast, efficient construction. The numbers were staggering. Project completion times averaged 40% faster than industry standards, with costs typically 15% below competitors, and a remarkable 95% on-time delivery rate. However, beneath the gleaming glass facades of their latest projects, cracks were beginning to show. Despite record-breaking quarterly earnings and aggressive expansion plans, troubling reports were surfacing. While some project managers maintained excellent relationships with clients and subcontractors, others faced mounting complaints about rushed work and impersonal management. Most concerning was the exodus of veteran employees, including Thomas Rivera, his father's first hire, who left citing fundamental changes in company values. During the latest executive meeting, his team proudly presented statistics showing improved efficiency metrics and cost reductions. Late that night, buried in client feedback reports, he stumbled upon a comment that shook him to his core. Cornerstone used to build communities, not just buildings. Now they're just another corporate machine focused on churning out structures without soul. The words hit him hard, reminding him of Cornerstone's origins. His father started the company building homes for working-class families, believing everyone deserved quality housing at fair prices. Richard wondered, had his drive for efficiency and profit margins betrayed that legacy? An unexpected encounter provided him with an opportunity for insight. While touring their latest development site in Portland, his car broke down in a small business district they were slated to demolish for a new office complex. Forced to wait for a tow truck, he walked into the Daily Grind, a small coffee shop owned by Michael Anderson, a former architect turned small business owner. Not recognizing Richard as the CEO whose company was about to demolish his building, Michael shared his story. He'd left a prestigious architecture firm because he felt disconnected from the community impact of his work. Going beyond business as usual, his coffee shop became the soul of the neighborhood. Here, local artists showcased their work, students immersed themselves in their studies in cozy nooks, and elderly neighbors found pleasant company to socialize. "You see that lady over there?" Michael pointed to an elderly woman carefully arranging fresh flowers on each table. "That's Mrs. Henderson. She's been bringing flowers from her garden every morning for 5 years. Says it gives her purpose after losing her husband. The real estate guys buying this block don't care about these stories. To them, it's just another property acquisition." Richard felt a heaviness inside as he realized that he was the very same realtor. In the hours that followed, a picture unfolded before his eyes. The coffee shop had become more than a commercial establishment. It had become the center of attraction for the entire neighborhood. Teachers checked papers at the tables while chatting with regular guests. Veterans gathered for weekly meetings, and aspiring businessmen held informal meetings with their mentors. That evening, Richard decided to dig deeper. Creating an alias as Ryan Peters, a freelance construction consultant, he spent the next 2 weeks visiting various Cornerstone projects across the country. What he discovered was troubling. At a Chicago residential development, he witnessed project manager Lauren Martinez struggling to maintain quality standards under impossible deadlines. "The schedule software says we should complete this floor in 7 days," she confided to a colleague. "That's barely enough time to do the work, let alone do it right. But if we fall behind schedule, we'll all be graded." During a visit to Dallas, he met the experienced foreman Robert Davis, who stood firm in his rejection of his superior's demands to speed up the work. When he was rebuked for missing deadlines, Robert replied simply, "In 30 years of building houses, I've learned that every nail and every beam is responsible for the safety of an entire family. I would rather lose my job than jeopardize someone's life." Particularly memorable was his visit to a construction site in Philadelphia, where he met a young engineer named Amanda Foster. She was secretly spending all weekend revising design documents to save a historic public garden from destruction. "Of course, it would have been cheaper and faster to just roll it in asphalt," she shared with the junior staff member. "But thanks to this garden, 3 local food banks get fresh vegetables. Sometimes the right decision isn't the easiest." Reviewing company records in his hotel room, Richard finally saw the full picture. In pursuit of efficiency and growth, they had systematically eliminated the human element that made construction meaningful. Success was measured in days saved and dollars earned, not in communities enhanced and lives improved. The next day, Richard called an emergency board meeting. He shared his experiences and presented a comprehensive analysis showing how their ruthless efficiency had compromised their fundamental mission. "We promised to build better communities," he said. "Instead, we're just building faster buildings." The transformation began immediately. Richard launched Building with Purpose, a complete overhaul of Cornerstone's operations. The changes were extensive and required substantial investment. They allocated $100 million to establish a community impact division, headed by Michael Anderson, who was hired to ensure each project contributed positively to its neighborhood. They revised their bidding process to include community benefit assessments. Amanda Foster was promoted to lead a new sustainable development initiative, while Robert Davis started a craftsman apprenticeship program to preserve traditional building skills. The scheduling system was completely revamped under Lauren Martinez's leadership, incorporating realistic timeframes that prioritized quality over speed. They established a heritage preservation fund to help restore historic buildings instead of demolishing them. Most significantly, they created a community advisory board that included local residents and business owners in project planning. The company's change, of course, had serious business consequences. Construction time increased by a quarter, and profits in the first quarter were cut nearly in half. Some directors even threatened to resign, claiming that such changes were contrary to their obligations to shareholders. However, Richard did not back down from his principles. "Our mission goes beyond just erecting buildings," he emphasized. "We are creating a legacy for future generations." The Portland project became their first test case for the new approach. Instead of demolishing the entire block, they renovated the historic buildings, incorporating the daily grind and other local businesses into a mixed-use development that preserved the neighborhood's character while modernizing its infrastructure. Mrs. Henderson's flowers still grace the coffee shop tables, now in a beautifully restored space that serves as the development's cultural heart. Despite an initial slowdown, long-term results have exceeded expectations. In 3 years, Cornerstone has achieved nearly 100% client satisfaction with its projects. Employee loyalty has grown significantly, and the mentoring program has become a benchmark for the entire construction sector. But most unexpectedly, the company's profitability eventually surpassed its previous figures. Clients were willing to pay more for projects combined high quality with a commitment to community. Today, Cornerstone Construction is studied in business schools as an example of how modern construction companies can balance efficiency with social responsibility. Their building with purpose methodology has been adopted by firms worldwide. Technology still drives their operations, but now it enhances rather than replaces human judgment and craftsmanship. Project sites combine cutting-edge construction techniques with traditional building arts, and every development begins with community engagement rather than just market analysis. Richard still regularly visits construction sites incognito, taking pride in how his teams now build more than just structures. They build communities. His experience proves that in modern construction, efficiency and profit can coexist with social responsibility. Cornerstone continues to grow, but now with their original mission at the forefront. Each month, Richard spends a week working alongside construction crews at different sites. It reminds me what real construction is about, creating spaces where lives unfold and communities thrive, he says. So what became of the very coffee shop that started all the change? The daily grind remains a living example of how community interest can trump commercial gain. It has now become an iconic element of the project, demonstrating the ability to create the future without destroying the past. Michael Anderson divides his time between running the coffee shop and advising Cornerstone on community engagement, showing that sometimes the most valuable business advice is born over a cup of coffee flavored with worldly wisdom. That's it. The story of how a titan of the construction industry realized that true success is not measured by financial performance alone. It's a reminder to all of us that the most valuable lessons we learn are when we leave behind our high offices and get closer to the people we work for. If Richard's story resonates with you, please join us for many more inspiring stories of leaders who have discovered true values. See you soon.